this is a very admirable trait for Batman or Bruce Wayne to get over his fears, because ultimately everything in this world isn't worth our fear. The only thing worth our fear is the Lord. And whether it be bats, spiders, social situations, if you become social man, I don't know. It doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, the only thing that matters is that we have a fear and reverence for the Lord. Social interactions scare me. It's time for other people to feel awkward.
I'm going to go and talk to the villain, and he'll be so socially inept because he's so stressed out.
My power is spreading introvertism.
Hello there.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Talk to me, Goose.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Why so serious?
World! I could do this all day.
Are you watching closely?
Oh no, it's falling.
I do that too.
Yes.
Well, while we're waiting, actually, I got something I got to show you guys quick. Okay, and Zach, this is gonna be a little awkward because you're the stepbrother in this situation. Okay, but since we've been waiting a long time to do the Nolan Bros episode for a while, okay, I've been waiting a long time to do this. So Seth, can I do screen shave?
I'm gonna switch it back to
Screen save. Screen share. Yeah, there we go.
I believe you can.
Okay,
You should shave.
Yeah, Will, you're scruffy.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Okay, you ready? Ready? I commissioned this for you guys. Okay, so boom.
Wow. Wait. Hold on.
Put it on a t-shirt. Put it on. He gave me shoulders.
I'm glad this is getting recorded.
I have waited so long for this. Okay, so I've been waiting a long time because we've been doing the Nolan thing. I was like, I am an artist and I'm not a good artist, so I wanted to make you guys something for the Nolan Bros. And so I earlier this summer, I specifically went and paid for somebody to make. I commissioned an artist to make some, artistry for us. And so there's like this one, there's this one, but yeah, this is the Nolan Bros.
That is amazing. You made us so much more buff.
No, just Josh. You would look like that. That's real.
Yeah.
This is Seth. This is why I had to ask for the logo, because I needed that for the shirt right there.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
There you go. This is
the greatest thing that has ever happened to me.
Wow.
And I'm a Christian and I got saved. No, that's...
I've waited a really long time to show this to you guys.
I'm putting it in the episode for reference. Here is the actual picture that it was based off of. We look a little bit different, but it's still...
Yeah. He did kind of bulk you guys up, which is okay.
This is the coolest thing ever. No,
I love that, William.
so okay with it. Like, look at my shoulders. Look at my shoulders right now.
I just love how Josh, like, he just looks so thick. He just looks.
Josh just loves his
those
shoulders.
muscles. Look at those muscles. Just look at that. It's like, Seth looks like he's been hitting the gym a lot.
I never thought I would make myself insecure like this.
My wife just said it's how I look normally, so...
Oh, she would.
She's
She
biased.
would, but what if she's right? Anyways, thank you, William, for sharing that.
Yep,
That's amazing.
This is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, there you go. So yes, I've been waiting for when we do our next Nolan Bros episode to finally show you that and say, hey, look.
I can Photoshop Zach's face in.
Nice.
We have Zach crashing the family reunion today as the Nolan cousin.
Yes.
Again, I feel bad, Zach, because I know you like Nolan just as much as we do. And I said in our first episode ever, which happened to be a movie night with Josh and Will one night, to just, hey, should we be the Nolan Bros? And that unfortunately excluded you from everything else. So,
Man, if I knew Prestige was going to be the first episode, I would have fought so hard to be a part of it. I love that movie.
We will do revisited episodes once we've exhausted any other possible ideas. We'll just start the Marvel train of reusing, not Marvel, sorry, the Disney train of reusing old ideas instead of coming up with new ones. So we'll do the Prestige Revisited one day.
Animated remakes.
We're animated rather than in person.
Go backwards instead of doing live action adaptations, you do animation adaptations. Yeah. Oh, good stuff. All right. Well, welcome to the highly. I don't like that I said the Longley. Shush.
The Longley.
It's so Longley.
So lonely.
Longley.
The highly anticipated episodes. This will be the trilogy because we cannot cover the entire Dark Knight trilogy in one episode. So we will be, as opposed to other series where we end up running through a whole trilogy in one episode because of time, we want to take our time with this because I feel like there's a lot and we have 4 people to talk this time around. So we're just going to be talking about Batman Begins today. I'm excited. I wish I had watched it beforehand, but also I think I've seen it enough times and there's just so much that you guys will say that's going to get me thinking. And so, who's tapping? Josh
That is probably my brother out there welding something. Let me shut the window. You guys just keep talking.
He's got a beat. He's got a beat though. Like them hi-hats, just wait for the 808s to If you can't tell, I went to a concert yesterday. I am in concert like mood. Forrest Frank was at Liberty. It was
nice.
So awesome. I went to an NF concert, as you guys might have known. The Forrest Frank concert was better than the NF concert.
No way.
Really?
Just because of a performance? Because I know you like NF.
NF has great performance. He's also like a respectable guy, but like Forrest Frank has become borderline like my role model. Because everything that he was doing on stage, he's like, I don't feel like I should be given the stage to tell you about all the stuff that I'm doing because it's not me that's doing it. The Lord has given me this ability. And it was not a concert, it was worship. And especially with some of the songs, he like led into it just so awesomely. And it was so cool. Like there was 10,000 people in a parking lot listening to this guy. Alumni were begging to see if they could come and see this guy in person. It was insane. If you see any of the Instagram reels, I'll probably post something on my story too here after the podcast. But it was personally life-changing.
Nice.
Like, it was so cool.
That's great. Happy to hear that. Now Batman. Sorry.
Completely unrelated.
I don't know. Did you guys watch the movie beforehand?
Nope.
I did.
I did watch it in 8 times speed.
Yeah, forget 2 times speed. Just watch it 8 times speed.
Well, I only had like 20 minutes.
I know you have to compress the whole movie into that short.
Okay, it's like the meme of like the what is it, like Chinese, like the Bible in Chinese in like one ear and then like Mozart in the other ear, and it's like 2.5 speed, and like you just like and while you're doing that, like you're typing with your right hand, then you're like you're reading Braille book with your left hand, and like you're doing something with your feet, like you're just like ultimate multitasker who's just ascended to enlightenment through just multitasking.
The only kind of multitasking I think I can do is farting and sneezing at the same time. That's about it. Sorry.
Okay. I do have a question, Seth.
Keep that in the episode.
No. Josh's secret's revealed. He really is a poopy pants.
I just sent in our Discord one of my favorite memes. I think I've sent this to Josh. Somebody compressed the entirety of Shrek.
Oh yeah, you sent this
into a GIF. It's like 64 pixels wide, and it's the whole movie from start to finish, a full 90 minutes.
And it's a GIF.
Yeah, it's different. I know that some people have done like super sped up. This is the whole movie. GIFs, I suppose, but this one's just regular speed. The entire Shrek movie, no audio, in a GIF. So I thought that was fun. Sorry. I feel like the title of this episode should be "So Batman."
so Batman.
Back on
Well,
track.
we haven't
Batman.
talked for a while. I feel like we're just trying to catch up.
Just it's just Seth just like trying to like bring us back to the point. So Batman, like we'll just go off on a tangent. And it's like, I do have a confession to make, Seth, and I'm sorry, this is gonna be really bad. But when you said Dark Knight, I was thinking Dark Knight. So I haven't actually watched Batman Begins. So that's I'm not. My input is not.
Wait.
My input's not gonna be great.
Wait, like
Pull
ever?
up the 16 times
No, never.
speed.
But, okay, I basically know what happens because of just cultural osmosis, but I have not technically actually watched it. Zach, you might have to take my. You just might have to become adopted and take my position for this one. I don't know.
Here it is.
Okay. Is that the
Zach seems
Shrek?
befuddled and aghast, and
Well, I'm just like, why is he in the episode if he hasn't seen the movie?
yeah, Will, get out of here.
Yeah.
We waited an extra 15 minutes for him too.
for him to come in and say, "I thought we were talking about the Dark Knight." Wait a second, Will. Have you seen the Batman Begins at all?
No, I've seen clips of it. You have no idea. I can fake my way through so many things. You have no idea.
Well, we're gonna start this episode with Will explaining the plot to us.
Yes.
Okay, it's fine. All right.
Yes, oh my word.
In Gotham City, after falling down a well and being swarmed by bats, young Bruce Wayne develops a fear of them. At the opera with his parents, Bruce begins unsettled by performers masquerading as bats and asks them to leave. Outside, Margaret Jo Chills murders Bruce's parents in front of them. Bruce is raised by the family bullet entrepreneurs. 14 years later, Chill testifies against the mafia crime boss Carmine Falcone and is paroled. Bruce intends to murder Chill to avenge his parents. One of Falcone's hitmen does so first. Bruce's childhood friend, Rachel Dawes, berates him for acting outside of the justice system. After confronting Falcone, who says real power comes from being fear, Bruce spends the next 7 years traveling the world, training in combat and immersing himself in the criminal underworld. In a Bhutan prison, he is approached by Henry G. Carter, preaching to the...
I think he's reading the synopsis from Wikipedia.
Will's cheating.
I think this is the 16
cheating.
times
How dare
version. This is the 16 times version.
Sorry, Will, continue. We do want you to know what's going on. So keep going.
Is this Wikipedia?
Yes.
Are you reading it? You have to be.
Yes.
Okay.
He escapes during down their temple. The process for Rogers is killed by The end. There you go. That's the plot of Batman Begins. You know.
So, thank you for explaining to us what the plot is. Do you understand what's going on, William?
Or did you just read that and it just...
Were you reading words?
Did you process any of it, or did you just read it?
Pure memory. That's all from memory. I know. I just wrote that all on hand by myself. You know, as it goes.
All right. Well, we move on. We push ahead. Okay. What do you guys think of Batman Begins as a movie, as a beginning to a trilogy?
A Wikipedia article.
As a Wikipedia article you just read through, maybe.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm watching Shrek
Definitely
meet
not.
Donkey on the gift.
He's actually okay. This even recording this podcast, you need like a secondary screen, like the I'll put Subway Surfers here, and I'll put GTA gameplay over here, and then some Minecraft parkour right here, and then I don't know what I'll put up here. We need to keep your attention, and Josh. I keep seeing Josh look to the side. He's just watching Shrek. I thought it was about Batman too.
So Batman.
So Batman.
So Batman.
All right.
Here, I'll
I'm
put
gonna go
Shrek
with...
underneath the screen.
So it looks like you're looking at us.
I have replaced Zach with Shrek.
No! Dang it! I quit.
Sorry, you were never a Nolan bro.
Oh, that's low. That's
a
low.
low blow. That was a low blow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm turning Shrek around. He'll face you guys.
No, Zach, you seem to be the only one to talk about Batman right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, Batman really began in that movie, you know?
Yeah.
Do I need to
You
do
could
this?
say that. I
Hold
can't
up,
see it.
Is this Subway Surfers? It's
Yeah,
Subway Surfers.
Except it's super bright. Anyway,
We're 20 minutes
might-
in.
yeah,
So Batman.
So bad.
Batman.
I might be wrong, but I think Batman Begins is actually the only live-action origin film for Batman, I think.
Yeah.
Except for like the old ones, maybe, right?
No, I think Michael Keaton, his skipped his origin.
I never
Yeah.
watched any of the old ones, so I wouldn't know.
I saw it a
That-
while back, but
Well, that's
What's that?
interesting. That's interesting because I feel like Batman is the one we go to when we talk about the overused trope of telling us the same story over and over again.
yeah.
I
mean,
or
most of them all have flashbacks to it, but this
I
is
was gonna
really
say-
the only one that actually goes through it. That makes sense.
Batfleck had flashbacks. Like that wasn't.
Yeah.
It didn't start. Yeah, because it wasn't his movie. It was just Batman versus Superman. Not. Yeah, it's very interesting that when we would point to Batman saying we don't need to see the pearls flying when she gets shot or whatever again, like we actually haven't seen it that many times except for flashbacks. We saw it in the show Gotham. I watched that in college and I actually remember liking it. I remember it got cheesy, sure, but apparently I remember liking it and I want to watch it again if possible, where it's young villains and young superheroes. It's kind of like, what is it, Smallville? Yeah, Smallville is the pre-Justice League superheroes as kids or whatever. So, yeah, that's a good point though, Zach. I didn't realize that this might be really the only true origin story for Batman, and I think it does a good job.
Yeah, it does.
I know we know we probably praise Nolan too much that we're blind to all the mistakes, and some people thought it was very odd that somebody with the past in what he directed would turn to superheroes. And he also has said in recent interviews that he would never do another superhero movie again, just because he probably felt the pressure from fans. Like he has his fans, but then he's bringing in another group of fans, Batman fans, and saying it should be this, it should be that. And he was pretty faithful, but I don't think that bode well for his feeling about how the trilogy went. He wanted to make his version, and there was plenty to go off of. I don't think that he was modern Disney and saying don't read the comics or whatever.
I think he also probably felt really restrained too. So like with Christopher Nolan's creativity, he wants to have a story where he can break all of the rules, like sending time backwards or having dreamception. With a superhero movie, the rules are already laid out. Christopher can't change any of them. So that's why you see such a linear storytelling in Batman Begins. It's because like he has to stick to the story. Now he'll still jump around with like a few flashbacks here and there, but like it's the most straightforward Christopher Nolan film out there because there's so many rules he has to follow with a superhero movie. So I understand why he hasn't turned back on it and why he doesn't want to.
Honestly, it's kind of like the entire trilogy, I think as a whole, is like the least Nolan of the Nolan films. And what I mean there that is like not that his presence and his style and his like skill is insane, but it's like I think like pretty much every single Nolan film that he produces has some sort of like weird time gimmicky where it's like one thing's going on, another thing's going on, and at the end they all kind of come together for a revelation. and that doesn't really happen in any of these films. It's very linear, and I think he does a really good job. And I think for the Dark Knight trilogy, that Nolan basically he created the popular Batman, which is the popular understanding and consensus of Batman. Like when someone says Batman, they think darkness, vengeance, for Gotham. Like that's what they think of.
Martha.
But yeah, like so I think he does that
For Martha. Sorry.
But yeah, he
Go
made
ahead,
like
Rob.
the popular Batman. And like, but it's also again very distinctive because I mean, what was the film that he did before this one? Was it the the one that we reviewed before? Because this is a 2005, so he had done
Memento, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Memento.
I'm looking it up.
I feel like it probably was.
Memento.
No, Oh, never mind. This isn't
Inception is
right.
2010.
What? Release date. Following Memento, Insomnia, Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet, Oppenheimer. So it was it was Insomnia right before that, which we have yet to talk about.
What I was going to say, though, is that you still do get to see Nolan do his non-linear storytelling, especially in the first half of Batman Begins. There's a lot of jumping back and forth between, when he's off in another country, kind of figuring life out. It jumps between that and him as a kid and everything, and so you still get to see a lot of Nolan telling a story in that kind of complicated way. And what I really think is cool about the Dark Knight trilogy compared to most superhero films is that I really feel like it is the director's vision put to screen. Especially with like MCU films, there's so much studio interference these days and studio mandates. Kevin Feige just has to get his fingers in all of it, and I sorry.
I hear you.
But I don't think there was really much of that. I think Warner Brothers just kind of gave Christopher Nolan Batman to do with as he wanted, and so we really just got Nolan's Batman. It wasn't WB's Batman; it was just Nolan's Batman, and that's I think what made him so good compared to most modern comic book films.
I think by that point, Nolan had created his own status where a studio could hand him a check and he makes what he wants. Like they know it's going to make money. Now, even if Batman Begins was only his fourth movie, he proved himself at the very least. At the very least to continue on with the trilogy. But that's one of the first things I kind of heard about Tenet is that they gave him a blank check. They let him make whatever he wanted. And that's when you respect art. That's when the people behind the scenes who aren't making decisions as much are allowing the creativity to flow and say, this person is going to deliver on the movie that he said he's going to make. And we let him run with it. When you said it's just straight up what the director wants, I pictured Zack Snyder and how he makes a PG-13 version, and then he has his director's cut. He's the director's cut director, and it's got a completely different
4
movie.
hours director cuts.
It's a different movie. People said that Rebel Moon, the R-rated version, the director's cut, is not the same movie as Rebel Moon PG-13, and I don't get why they didn't just make Rebel Moon the Rebel Moon R-rated version, because that's what Zach wanted to make. They do this thing with him where they say we could get 4 movies out of this, even though it's one story, but even though it's 2 stories apparently because they're differently told. But yeah, people trust Nolan, I think, a lot more, and I think it showed very well. I think I don't know exactly if people. I think people like The Dark Knight Returns the least. Then Batman Begins, and then The Dark Knight Rises. What did I say?
Returns.
Yeah. Sorry, in my mind, that's the trilogy is The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, The Dark Knight Returns, or something. Yeah, The Dark Knight Rises least. Batman Begins, and then The Dark Knight, right? Because The Dark Knight is usually the best on the list, but I think The Batman Begins is. People don't really. We'll talk about The Dark Knight Rises in the one we get there, but I think Batman Begins is probably the second best, and I think that's fair because he peaked with Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so Batman.
So Batman.
I was gonna ask you guys where you think Christian Bale ranks as a Batman, Bruce Wayne actor, because we've said it doesn't even need to be he's third or something like that. We've talked about Spider-Man and how we say, again, you're gonna have to correct me on this. Tobey Maguire has the best movies, and Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. I don't know whatever that was. No, I'm just referencing that. It doesn't. I don't care if I was correct or not. But I'm saying, does Christian Bale excel in one area where others don't? Is he objectively the third best Batman? Whatever you want to say.
I
personally. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say,
call dibs, please.
Dibs. There we go. Kind of like I said with Andrew Garfield back in our Spider-Man episode, I think that Christian Bale is the best actor to play Batman. That doesn't. I'm not saying he's the best Batman, but he's the best actor to play Batman. As in, he really commits to a role. You've seen how he drastically changes his weight and all that, and puts on muscle or fat or whatever he needs to. And you also really just see that in his acting as well. Like, he gets so into it. I don't know if I would say that he's the best Batman.
What's the name of the new Batman guy?
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. Okay, might be a hot take. I think he's the best Batman, but Christian Bale is a second.
I was going to say the same thing.
I imagine Batman to be a little bit more of an edgy, goth, emo kind of guy. I won't lie. Because all he does is stay up at night, wear black, put on eye mascara, and deepen his voice to try and sound intimidating. Not actually. There's so much more to Batman, but Christian Bale is a little too businessy, and I feel like business is definitely not his first priority as Batman.
Well, I was just going to say, I think he's the best Bruce Wayne. As in that, Bruce Wayne is Batman's mask, as they even say in this movie. And I think Christian Bale plays that part the best.
Yeah, I will agree. The best Bruce Wayne, but probably not the best Batman.
I think that I would say that dang it, I can't remember his name now. Who's the guy who voices Batman in the animated series?
Kevin Conroy.
There you go. I would say that Kevin Conroy is the best voice for Batman, and Christian Bale is the best
definitive Batman
portrayal for the. There you go. That Christian Bale is the best Bruce Wayne, because he can play off the businessman, playboy attribute. And I think he does a pretty good job as a Batman himself. But the thing is, though, I don't like the deep voice that just kind of sounds out of place, which is kind of mocked a little bit. It's like the whole forgot them, like that type of voice. And I think there is something about
Rachel.
And I think there is something about the more recent Batman portrayal where he kind of, the thing is, like, there's two different type of Batmans that are kind of being portrayed here. And like in the Nolan trilogy, you have a Batman who's trying to balance the Bruce Wayne and like playing that role as Bruce Wayne as a playboy billionaire, but also trying to wrestle with being Batman and that struggle. Whereas in the more recent Batman with Robert Pattinson, he doesn't really even like exist so much. He's just antisocial. He's not the playboy billionaire. And I kind of like the more comic book portrayal of the playboy billionaire type of Batman. So I think they have like good versions. And I think Christian Bale would be I think I would be fine with him if the voice was just a little different. So it wasn't so like, maybe just a little funny, I guess. Because it is kind of like, just super deep voice.
Meme-ish.
Yeah, a little meme-ish.
Well,
That's kind of a meme thing.
It's very memed, because that's what College Humor and Studio C based their satire Batman on. Is they would you purse the lips a little bit and then bring your voice down and you slur it a little bit and you say, "No, Rachel." Rachel. Those satire clips have made me not like Christian Bale's as much, just because of how its influence. It's like, I'm not wearing hockey pads, and like those the Studio C skit is just so good. I know. I'm not alone on that. I'm gonna stand by past me's self, but understand that I'm also wrong. That's not this movie though. But if you I'm saying those satire shorts made me watch Batman, Christian Bale's Batman, and see every time he does, he kind of puts his lips up because that's the only shape his mask can make. Is he kind of just. I
don't have to kill you, but wait, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you.
And kills him basically.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about Christian Bale bringing a lot of Bruce Wayne to the role, that probably was influenced by American Psycho, having him be the businessman. That whole movie is about him, about the business world, and saying that they're all stuck up in business. And I think it's not the same character, obviously, but that kind of influences where they're dapper and they're professional and all that. I think this can tie into a big part and possibly a big problem that people have with the Batman or with the Dark Knight trilogy is the technology. The technology that's given Batman that people say is overexplained, and Nolan likes to do that. I think that's what, when we were talking about, this is a very Nolan film still, the explanations, the making it seem like it could be in the real world is a very Nolan thing. He likes to make the real world a little bit extraordinary and go with that story. Not necessarily for things like Dunkirk, where it's a historical thing, but like with Inception, he's going to lay out the rules of the world. He's going to seem like it's possible. Like he grounds it in, how it seems like your dreams is longer or are shorter than actually, 8 hours of sleep or whatever. He rolls with that and he explores that more and more. And that's the point of Inception. It makes the normal world just a little bit cooler. And that's what he does with Batman. He doesn't just say, oh, Batman can do this. He has an explanation for it. And it does make sense. Like, I still think that the bat wings is a very possible piece of tech that could exist. But again, some people didn't like that. They didn't want to know that. I like it, but I want to know if that's something you guys have thought of, or if it is too much. We're going to go reverse alphabetical. Zach, Will, Josh.
Oh, me first. Wow. I don't care too much that the technology is overexplained. I think that I think I do like that extra level of making it feel real, because that is a very Nolan thing, as you said, and just I don't know. I just feel like seeing Nolan's view of Batman is kind of just as we already said, is very intriguing, and kind of seeing just him shape this character into this world into his own is very cool to see. And just that over explanation of the technology and the bat wings and everything goes along with that. But I just think it adds another layer to his movies and this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, before Will goes, I think it'd be interesting to compare that fictional tech of the wings to the Batman, where he had an actual wingsuit. It was just like, we know what a wingsuit is, and that was his version of the wings, at least in that point in his career. So I wonder if that's comparable at all, where the Batman was grounded in a reality that's still ours, but it's something we recognize, and yet Nolan chooses the expository version and explains it all away, and it makes sense, but still it's different than just showing us a wingsuit. Does that make sense?
I think it's interesting because as a kid, there was actually this book I used to read called Batman Science, or The Science of Batman. It was literally just like a bit of an explanation, like Batman suits can do this, and here's the real life stuff like Kevlar, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But I think, I don't know, as like a kind of like a tech guy or somebody who likes like cool technology, it's cool to see how that would technically feasibly work, like the wingsuit where it's the electromagnetic charge causes a molecular realignment that you can essentially harden something or soften it through an electrical current, or the tumbler itself, the thing that he actually drives, and how that's designed for military purposes, but he's repurposes, and obviously he has to have it all in black. Also, one kind of little detail I did like is where the process of making these type of suits, and how like they literally mentioned like he has to have like a dummy court or a dummy company in like China, send it to like another company in Singapore, and send it in like groups of like 10,000 so you can avoid suspicion. I watched the flip right now. I'm sorry. I think that's also a really good way to do it, because one thing that's kind of whenever I've read Batman is like, how exactly do they logistically like build all this without like avoiding suspicion? Like, gee, this Mr. Wayne just keeps on having orders for like black suits and stuff. I wonder where that's coming from. So I like the logistical aspect to it as well, and that explanation. I don't know. I kind of like it. I'm not as really antagonistic, and I think it also serves the purpose. At least this is Batman Begins, so by the end of it, we don't really need to know how it all works. Whereas with the Batman, the more recent one, he's already in his second year of crime fighting. Like, this is an established Batman, not the best Batman probably, because he's still moody and has issues and all that sort of stuff. But he's kind of already got a system set up, so we don't really need to see that being built. Whereas again, Batman Begins is all about the beginning of Batman and how he sets us up in the first place. So explaining that, I think, is really useful for the rest of the trilogy. I'm kind of fine with it.
Yeah, I actually, William, exactly what you said is what I was going to say. For a title of Batman Begins, explaining how Batman like gets all of his stuff, how some of his suit works, and I think it all fits really, really well. I also really, really like the style that Christopher Nolan's Batman has, just because it feels a little bit more feasible, where it's like the armor suit doesn't feel like it's some sort of fancy latex that you throw on or something like that. I also really like the Batmobile in this one. Just painting some military vehicle black, like a special military vehicle, rather than having a fully custom, like, weird long car. I really don't like the traditional Batman vehicle, just because it feels cartoony. Which I know that's what, like, Batman is. It's a comic. Like, it's supposed to be a comic style car that's supposed to look cool, and it does look cool, but it doesn't really fit with Batman, if that makes sense. Like, I imagine him to be like a super soldier, not like Captain America, because that's a completely different universe, but like someone who has so much military technology and stuff that's super advanced, like high-tech gadgets. And I think Christopher Nolan delivered exactly that, with being able to have like explainable and feasible like military or just gadgets, you know?
Yeah.
And it just worked really well.
Yeah. I like that scene where he goes and talks to Lucius and is explaining all this stuff, where he goes, I think I agree with Will, is the technical parts of it. And again, Will hasn't seen the movie, but he's going to Lucius, getting these tech pieces, and you know, he's a supplier, and Lucius kind of has a moral problem with that, but I still think that makes it more real. And something I just realized and remembered is that this is really the first of the new wave of superhero movies as they were coming out back in the mid 2000s. Before this was Clooney and Keaton, and they were taken seriously, not like the 1966 version where it was Batman in a musical or dancing with the Egyptians or whatever. That it still looked very plasticky. It looked like a action doll figure and all that. This one, the Batman Begins, was one of the first ones to be taken seriously, as though it could have been real. And I think that directly affected how the MCU started, how Iron Man was created, and all of the rest to follow. I mean, even as may Zach hold it. You could probably talk, though, about how the X-Men were probably related to the production.
They were the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies that kind of led the way to the MCU. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
I still think that the Raimi Spider-Man movies were very comic accurate visually. And the more modern techie type of superheroes, you know, I just watched Captain America, the First Avenger today, and his final suit is so much more muted and tactical is the word I use. A lot of the superhero suits become tactical. And I think where Raimi and the older X-Men movies and the pre-Batman movies were, and even the Superman movies, I mean, he just straight up wore a leotard with pants. But that it's ripped straight from the comics. They didn't think to make anything else. And having Bale be the Batman that looks tactical, I think, was one of the first. Again, you can prove me wrong, but it was at least a stepping stone. I would argue it's the stepping stone to launch into that Marvel Marvel's movies and probably DC's soon after that.
I was just gonna say it is kind of interesting. I just watched a video today called like the cameos in pre-MCU slash Marvel or Avengers films. I probably will link the video or put it in the Discord or whatever. It was kind of interesting because like it was like the Fantastic Four or like the Daredevil Elektra movies and like Daredevil when he was played by Ben Affleck and stuff like that, and how there was like tiny cameos between them, but that's what they were. They were just cameos and that was nothing more. And so it's kind of interesting how that's kind of always existed in these films. It's just that the MCU took it from cameo to actual usage and like interconnection, and how one person from one story and movie has an actual correlation with another person from another movie and story.
Let's talk about the specific movie. I feel like we've been talking about Batman character, Nolan's directing. What about Batman Begins? And this is probably Will is going to feel left out, but it's your own fault. What about the Batman Begins movie is good with, the origin story for Batman, whether he's training with Ra's al Ghul or, he doesn't know it's Ra's al Ghul, spoilers, to the way the rest of the world is built with Rachel and Alfred and things like that.
What I found really interesting while watching it today is that there's almost a villain for each act of the film. Because the first act is kind of Carmine Falcone as the main villain, and then Scarecrow's kind of the villain of the second act, and then Ra's al Ghul is the villain of the third act. So it's just very interesting how it's structured there, and just kind of how different each villain is. It's just kind of very cool to see how Nolan developed each of them.
Well, and I think those were very safe villains to go with. With Carmine Falcone being a gang boss and Ra's al Ghul kind of being a mystical, otherworldly, but also, Gotham will fall and whatever. It works. And yet it wasn't the Joker right away. It wasn't Bane right away. And I think that is good. I think Nolan understood waiting and knew what his plans were. And even without S tier villains and A tier villains, Ra's al Ghul is probably an A tier in the Batman world, but the Scarecrow. Scarecrow is kind of just an overarching villain for the whole trilogy. But
you don't think of him first.
But yes, they're he used them well. And if he had just gone straight for the Joker, I don't know that would have been taken as well. But I think promising it at the very end and having it be the second movie made it so much better.
Also, apologies to those who are watching the video. I was using the sun as part of my light, and it's starting to go down. I don't know if you can tell. So
now he's just got a halo.
Yeah. But for the villain choice, I think Scarecrow was a great option. I think he's one of the most underrated characters or like villains of all time. Just because I love the concept of making people scared and having a superhero that's like created out of fear of bats is like it's a perfect villain for Batman. And I'm so glad that Nolan chose him as one, even though Ra's al Ghul is like the main one throughout the whole movie. I really liked his inclusion of that and his rendition of that. The only other Scarecrow I know is the one from the Batman Arkham Knight, the video game.
Yeah.
And that one was really, really good, but it was definitely it felt like there wasn't any story behind Scarecrow, and I like a good origin story. And the origin story of the Scarecrow here, like, even though he didn't really get like much of an explanation, it was like he has a character. He doesn't just have some creepy mask on and have a ton of gas that makes people scared. It was like, this is some dude who's manipulative and he's good at his craft, and that's what makes him a good villain, not just some gas or him having some elaborate plan while he's wearing that mask. Like he's twisting stuff around, which is exactly what fear does. And I loved Christopher Nolan playing into like that character, specifically the Scarecrow. Now I don't have much of an opinion on Ra's al Ghul because that's kind of a hard villain to mess up. because it's just a classic fist versus fist, blade versus blade, like equal battle that takes place. Whereas Scarecrow, it's like that little bit of spice, which is the fear gas, and I loved that.
Whenever Josh brings up spice, I remember that he loves food analogies.
I think every single time we're talking about some like great movie, I'll bring in the seasoning. That seasoning analogy.
Yeah. It's a good one.
This movie is well seasoned.
Oh boy!
I think this movie was marinated, seasoned, and basted in some butter,
and then slow cooked.
Nolan cooks.
Come here. I was gonna save that for the next episode, but
oh no!
Everybody, my wife. I have a Batman cowl from when we did. Well, William was there. William, you were there when we did Laugh Out Loud, and we did Studio C skits, and I bought a Batman cowl for that. And you found it. I was gonna pull it out next episode, but there you go. Now you know what to look forward to.
So Batman.
So Batman.
Batman. Oh, woo.
Don't bring back Uwu. That was a one-time thing for Optimus Prime.
No, that's actually interesting. So it's probably going to focus on the War of Cybertron then? Like, basically everything that happens before the Transformers get to Earth seems like what it's going to be focusing on.
Megatron, I like you. Megatron, do you want to go out with me sometime?
Oh, no!
Uwu.
Alright, shut it down. Oh, man. Let's talk about this cast really quick.
Megatron. Uwu.
Oh no! No going back. We can't go back.
It's just as good.
Just good.
So Batman.
Well, let me just say one thing quickly about the villain and stuff like that, because it's interesting how you kind of have like an escalation, because you got like the crime boss, and you have like the crime boss, which is like, you know, okay, that's real. I think it's like the villains in this film are an escalation of absurdity in a sense, or at least like they're an escalation of like what the audience believes is possible. So, you know, if you could very well have a movie about someone who's trying to take down the criminal undermine against the thug boss, and that's like, you know, Carmine Falcone. He's kind of believable, like, yeah, he's a mob boss. He runs this underground stuff in the city. Very believable. He's taken out first act, like kind of like ish, as you kind of mentioned, Zach. And then you have Scarecrow, who's like a crazy doctor, psychologist who has a drug thingy-majig that like makes people go scary. And that's changing the believability, because like, okay, that's a bit more of a stretch, but you know, it's technically possible. You could see it. And then you have Ra's al Ghul, who is like this evil mastermind of a secret, shadowy organization of assassins, and he wants to destroy an entire city because he's an eco-terrorist. That's like even more of a stretch. I think kind of what you're doing with this is that with Batman Begins is that Nolan is kind of introducing us to this world, which is realistic. It doesn't have like aliens and supervillains that just fly around and dual. It's all technically at least believable. But he does it in such a way where he's kind of expanding on what is acceptable and believable within this universe with the villains, where you have like a mob boss, then a crazy kook who's got a drug thingamajig, and then like this crazy eco-terrorist who wants to destroy an entire city. Like that normally doesn't really happen in real life. But by the end of it, you're like, okay, this is the world that we live in, where there's this masked guy in a vigilante suit who is taking up and fighting people from all sorts of backgrounds who are just insane and just want to do crazy stuff. Also, let me just say, Scarecrow, I think, is kind of my favorite villain. Just like watching some of the scenes of him, like where he's interrogating Falcone's the thug, or he's interrogating like Falcone's thug or whatever, and like he was like, you know, there's this mask,
Great
like,
scene.
and I also love too, like when like there's like the scene where after he's beaten the Batman the second time and the Batman goes after them, he's like, oh, he's here, and he's excited because he's kind of like got that interesting archetype where he is crazy, like he wears like a not really scary scarecrow mask, but it's only scary because he uses the chemical that he creates, but he's kind of crazy by doing that, but at the same time he's so able to pass as normal, which is kind of a very common thing that psychopaths can do, where they have like the mask of normalcy where they can just seem normal, but they're really just kind of like, I'm just waiting to like dissect you or whatever. And that's the whole thing with him, where like especially in his scenes with Rachel, where he's just like brushing off all the accusations about her until he literally puts on a mask, like his true evil is revealed and he goes full nuts. Although the scene where he gets gassed and like Batman is revealed as like a true demon in his eyes, that is a great one too.
It's starting to sound like he's watched the movie.
I think he's lying to us.
Wow.
Can you tell I'm watching it at the same time with
I'm watching a movie too. I'm watching Shrek argue with Fiona.
It's still going? Wow.
Yeah, it's still going. This is the scene we're at.
Oh my.
It's still going.
I'm literally like just looking up like clips and scenes from YouTube right now about Begins, just so I have something to play with.
That's fine. Gosh, so much happened since I talked last. I have so many notes. You're right. I think having Scarecrow be a normal person. I don't know if he was convinced he was normal, and the few times he pulls out the mask to use the fear toxin, that's his real self, and he's putting on an act when he's a real person, or if he knows, does he understand social cues like that, or I don't know. Because some villains in the Batman universe are just crazy, and but you're right, he does blend in very well, and he is Dr. Crane in normal life. But I think that's one of the scariest parts about him, and especially as we see his descent by the end of the trilogy, where he's the judge, jury, and executioner in the big courtroom. I think that's quite the villain story for Scarecrow. I also think the fear visions were pretty intense. I like watching them, even though they're intense. But anytime it flashes to what people are seeing when they're infected by the fear toxin is crazy. There's like the fire breathing dragon was one of my favorite visuals. There's like when Scarecrow gets some of it to himself, he sees like an Iron Batman.
Oh
yeah, things like that. Josh brought up the mentor villain, where Ra's al Ghul is the mentor. Like, he should know more, and that's why it's evenly matched. It's not just Black Panther, where the final fight is them fighting the exact same way in this. They're equally matched. It's that when you have a mentor as the villain, he knows more. You would think, at the very least, he's withheld some information from the mentee, and that seems to be the case for some of it. Like, he seems to overpower very well, or Ra's al Ghul seems to overpower Bruce very well. But yeah, things like that make for a compelling story, not just a make it up as you go type of story. One of my favorite moments of Batman Begins is in the shipping container area. that first Batman scene. It's similar to the classic Batman shot where he's in a tunnel and the gunfire is lighting up every other frame as he's going in for them and whatever. But even that, it's still supposed to be that mysterious from the villain's perspective. But the best part is when he says, "Where are you?"
Here.
I love that. I had a funny question that I hope you pick up when I'm putting down. But if you were afraid of something and that directly related to your superpower, what would your superpower be?
Girl, man.
Yeah! Josh and I, we connect. We get it.
Are you two okay?
He gets it.
That's why I'm dating a girl named Michael.
No, I phrased it that way just because it's kind of silly. I think Will said something about how Bruce was just like, "I'm scared of bats. I'm gonna be Batman." I don't think you would do that with literally anything else. I don't like snakes. I'm gonna be Snake Man.
By that account, Josh would be Spider. Josh should be like a Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'd be
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I hate spiders.
Josh
I
would be
hate
Spider-Man.
spiders. Now, I
think-
really hope that this podcast doesn't, like, this specific episode and this specific moment doesn't blow up so that I don't get a ton of DMs of people sending me pictures of spiders. I don't want that to happen, please.
Well, now that you said it won't happen, it's gonna happen. What else about Batman? So Batman. Is Ra's al Ghul's plan too insane? Like, I know that the whole idea of Gotham is that it's like Manhattan, and it's very secluded, and that's what he kind of wanted, is that all the bridges up and nobody could escape, and then he makes everybody so fearful. That kind of happens closer to Dark Knight Rises, where everyone's trapped, and it's so not a civil war. There's a word for it where they take the city captive and all that. What?
Zach just sent me a picture of a spider.
I did.
Got him.
You almost interrupted my Shrek viewing.
Yeah. So the whole water thing and the fear toxin. I don't know. What was his goal? Maybe I'm remembering wrong. What was Ra's goal? Just to destroy Gotham?
Yeah. He saw that it was he thought that it was just better to start over than trying to fix it.
Oh.
So
Yeah, and he starts with Gotham instead of, I don't know, any other big city.
Washington, D.C.
it's kind of like
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We're all thinking.
I mean, his motives are very similar to the Riddler's in The Batman.
Yeah.
About just kind of revolution and wiping out what was.
Yeah, I understand the feeling, because I have the bad tendency to do the same thing with smaller things, not with whole cities, okay?
Seth's the terrorist!
A save file on a video game. Like, you don't start it correct. You want to, like, just start the game over again so you can do it better.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's
I'm
what
saying I have the idea of, like, you start something and then it continues to progress and you build off of that thing. But what if this thing wasn't the right way to start it? And so you just have to start from scratch. I literally did that with my job, where we had to redesign our whole brand. And I was like, let's just start from scratch. Let's not use anything that we have and just wipe it, demolish it all. But I don't think, I think that's a very, when you break it down, a lot of villain. But Josh, break it down for us.
Like that Australian breakdancer.
Yeah. What's her name?
I don't even know what her name. Oh,
Ray Gun.
Ray Gun. Right.
No, the best part is that that's not just a nickname. Her name is Rachel Gunn. So she's Ray Gun.
Rachel!
It's all connected.
Rachel gone. Rachel,
guns.
look, gone. Rachel gone.
Josh, what were you breaking down for us?
You were breaking down.
I forgot.
You said to break it down for you, and I broke it down.
So Batman. I totally forgot what I was saying.
I'm sorry.
Starting over. Starting from scratch. Destroy
No.
what was.
I was saying, if you break down a lot of villains, they stop. If you break down a villain's perspective, they really have a god mentality. Like, they have a massive ego. They think that they have the right to do something that nobody else has the guts to do, or whatever. And yeah, if Ra's al Ghul was trying to, start fresh and saying, I mean, the past of, what's the order that he was a part of? The
League of Shadows.
League of Shadows. The League of Shadows always would take down a an empire if it got too big. Like that was the history lesson. And I thought that was a cool tie-in. Like, you know, that's how the Roman Empire fell, is that the League of Shadows were there and they toppled that. Now, again, I think it's funny that he decided to focus on Gotham City. Yes, he said it was because it's progress and it's, you know, it's like Piltover. But, you know, why Gotham over any other major city? Again, it's fiction. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, I think that is like a bit of a weak point, but
yeah, but he thinks that he has the right to do that and to tell everybody we're going to start from the caveman era or whatever. Which again, I don't know. It's interesting that his standard is not right or wrong. It's about progress. When you get to too much progress, then it's bad and it has to be reverted. Instead of something like adjust. Like I feel like there's a villain who would be, you know, things have gotten too bad, so I'm going to wipe everybody out and start from scratch, like a Noah type of story.
Thanos.
Yeah, it wasn't really morality for him. That was objective resources and stuff like that. So
Touche.
I mean, that was kind of Thanos in Endgame, who just kind of wanted to wipe things clean.
Yeah. Thanos wanted to wipe things. That's right.
My man's had to go back to the bathroom for 5 rewipes.
All right. So Batman.
The great swipe.
The great wipe.
Oh no.
My man's rolling that around his hand like a mummy.
Oh no.
He's beehiving it.
Man.
I have all the power.
My infinity gauntlet is toilet paper.
So Batman.
Okay, before we move on too much, I do have a thought, question. Ra's al Ghul, isn't his history and his character in the comics, doesn't he bathe in this
Lazarus pits,
magical waters that makes him Lazarus pits? They don't give any explanation for that in Batman Begins, do they? Which I think plays a lot into what Seth said about the God complex, where if you live for ages and ages and ages, I'm sure that he's thinking that, oh, I'm here forever. I've seen so much. My wisdom is what's going to carry this generation to new heights. I wish they would have played into that, gave him a little bit more backstory like that, because it plays a lot more into that character that would want to take over Gotham, to start it over from scratch. I think that is something that Christopher missed, which is weird for me to say, but I wish he would have given a little bit more to this main villain, because Scarecrow, I think we can agree, is a side villain, not quite the main villain. Ra's al Ghul is the main villain. And not giving him as much backstory, or the backstory he needed, felt like it was missing something.
Yeah.
Well, the thing in the comics is that Ra's al Ghul, he is essentially immortal, and he's been around for a couple hundred years at the very least. And that the whole thing is that he's kind of an eco-terrorist, and that's because he lives in a time before pollution, and he knew when the world was pure, quote unquote, and he doesn't like the degeneracy of modern life. He wants to destroy everything and wipe it clean. But I don't think there's anything of that. I don't think there's anything about the Lazarus pits. And just in the Batman Begins, he's probably just, I think he's just a guy. He explains kind of his backstory a little bit, where he lost his love, and that motivated him by vengeance and whatever, and blah 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 blah. And there's probably some truth to that. I think more or less that he's just an actual guy in Batman Begins, but who's just I think you could maybe possibly elaborate that his plan is he's using Gotham as a testing ground, maybe, to see if he can actually destroy what he hates and then move from there or something like that. But it's a little scaled back, which I do think that kind of makes his character less interesting a little bit. But he still works.
Yeah, I don't think there's no real implication that he's immortal either. I mean, they say that the League of Shadows has been around for centuries or whatever, but I think Ra's al Ghul is just a normal guy in this universe.
You're just a dude.
I know that the Lazarus Pit and Ra's al Ghul have been used in the Arrow and Arrowverse. I believe it was used in Gotham a little bit. But yeah, that could have some theological implications in talking about immortality and wisdom and all that stuff. But I know that, like you said, I think that probably played into his God complex. If he could be the one to live forever or be brought back from the dead or whatever, that That'll get you.
Yeah. There's only one person I know that can live forever and come back from the dead that deserves any sort of say in what this world does.
And what's his name, Josh?
That's our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
Woo. Amen and hallelujah. Really quick, I think I knew that Zimmer composed the Batman Begins soundtrack.
I didn't.
But I don't think it's as memorable as any of the other things that he's done for Nolan. I could not hum you the tune to the Batman Begins theme.
No.
Bump, 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 bump. It's just kind of like that. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad, but
Batman.
Although it is
Batman does whatever a bat can.
The thing is, like, you need like two different harmonies to really get to it, because there's like the bottom, and then there's like the and then there's the orchestra violin part of it, but she can't really hum.
oh yeah.
Okay, now break it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very Batman theme, but not really that iconic. I forgot about this line. Why bats, Master Wayne? Bats frighten me. It's time my enemies share my dread.
That's just a cheesy line, to be honest.
That's so cheesy, but it's so funny and so good.
They frighten me.
Compare that to like the scene where he's picked up from the League of Assassins or whatever, and like he's returning to Gotham, and he's like, and he, not Bruce, when Alfred is kind of filling him in on like the whole, like, okay, here's what's happening while you're gone, what are you gonna do? And he says like, I need to become a symbol. Like as a man, as flesh and blood, I'm corruptible. But like as a symbol, like, you can't kill a symbol, you can't destroy me. I think that's the big thing about Batman and why he ultimately decides to become Batman or to embody that, is that by doing so, by becoming Batman, he's preying on the ideas and the fears that's more primeval, and you can't kill that. So essentially, I think what's kind of ingenious about the idea of a Batman is that you're planting the seed for that, oh, what if he's real? And you kind of see that throughout the rest of the trilogy, where there's criminals who are constantly saying like, oh, I heard he can fly, I thought he could do this, or what if he's watching, or what if he's going to come after us? And like there's that constant dread, and that's the whole point, that he's trying to use fear to deter people from doing wrong. Bit of like a stick analogy, where if you're whacking somebody with a stick to like use the fear of being harmed or attacked by the Batman, who is beyond the law, to avoid people from suffering the same fate that he had as a kid, as like losing your parents and that.
I think the Christopher Nolan did a really good job with kind of giving that complex, but I think the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, Pattinson.
He's got it. Oh, you didn't have to tell him. He could have kept guessing.
Rob Pat.
The new Matt Pat.
The very beginning scene in that movie did the best job at making sure, like, giving that understanding of how fear is what gives Batman so much power and keeps crime off of the streets, because just seeing the bat symbol and thinking that he's near is enough to keep you from doing something that would get you beat to a pulp.
I do really like the theme in this one, though, of kind of like, are you going to let your fears take a hold of you, or are you going to take a hold of your fears? Is kind of a main theme throughout this whole film, which kind of has some crazy Christian applications to it. But just seeing how fear, when Batman gives into fear, he can't really do anything. But when he decides to use his fears as a weapon and kind of overcome his fears, is when he can actually accomplish what he's going after, and he can really do what he set his heart out to do.
It goes back to the verse, or to Proverbs, where it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I think this is a very admirable trait for Batman or Bruce Wayne to get over his fears, because ultimately everything in this world isn't worth our fear. The only thing worth our fear is the Lord. And whether it be bats, spiders, social situations, if you become social man, I don't know. It doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, the only thing that matters is that we have a fear and reverence for the Lord. And I'm not saying Batman's doing that by any means, but I think overcoming your fears is something we should do.
Man, I'm glad he wasn't scared of a worm.
Merman.
Imagine taking that quote. Blank scares me. It's time for my enemies to be equally scared, or whatever he says, and just put other fears in there. Clowns. Clowns kind of make sense because it's the Joker, but the women scare me. It's time that my enemies shared my dread.
The Joker's true origin story.
Social interactions scare me. It's time for other people to feel awkward.
I'm gonna go and talk to the villain, and he'll be so socially inept because he's so stressed out.
My power is spreading introvertism.
Parties go silent. Business meetings are sweatier.
The Batcave is just a man cave where he plays video games all alone on his plushie.
He actually doesn't go out and do anything. He's no one actually knows about him. He's just sitting in his cave.
He's just playing video games and somebody else is Batman, but Alfred thinks that he's Batman because he disappears all the time, but he's just being by himself because he's an introvert. Oh, that's good.
Girls frighten me.
I think a lot of Zach and I did talk about Batman one episode a while ago, but I also think that a lot more of who Batman is explored in The Dark Knight when Joker basically tells Batman about himself, and tells him what being a vigilante is and what being taking the law into your own hands and whatever, and that has some deep philosophical or psychological things about the character, but I really love I really love Batman Begins. I don't think it would be my first pick out of the trilogy, but it's still up there, and I think it was huge in paving the way for future movies of many different studios, but superhero genre. You know what I mean?
So what do you guys think about the quote, "I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you"? Did he kill Ra's al Ghul?
It's pretty cruel to do that because it's obvious that the train's going to crash and blow up, and he's dooming him to death, even if he's not, actually killing him. So I don't know.
Well, it's a question like what counts as murder. Is
Anyone
like
else?
willful neglect count as murder? I think that kind of tends to be more defined as manslaughter in legal terminology. I'm not an expert, don't quote me. But
we're getting into the trolley problem.
Yeah.
Quite literally, actually, kind of.
Yeah, because the idea of the trolley problem is it's going towards the 5 people. For those who for some reason don't know the trolley problem, but you could switch it to intentionally kill the one. But the debate is, since you aren't involved in the equation yet and you don't pull the lever, you aren't directly responsible for those 5 lives that are going to die. But if you pull the lever, you are directly responsible for the one to die. And that's kind of the debate. And then that's kind of being brought up again here with like ethics and morality, with like, if this person is going to die but you do nothing to save it, is it your fault that they're dying? No. Are you denying them life? Yes.
It's also the whole I don't want to kill rule. I think we talked about it when we talked about the character of the Batman, Zach and I, but he does, and especially the Zack Snyder version pretty much murders all the people in BVS and all that. So I don't know. It's something that people get hung up on, and I know some actual critics have said people say, "Oh, Batman shouldn't kill," and he's like, "No, he actually has multiple times in the comics." So it's kind of just something he says and doesn't always do. But yeah, as Josh said, you're allowing it to happen when you could have prevented it. And it's not like he's, I think there's something to be said about him saving a life. Well, yeah, he says, I don't have to save you, but is he working towards saving him because there could be rehabilitation? Or is he like, maybe there's a chance he would survive this train crash, and so I'll leave it to fate. But then again, then he's just Two-Face. That's maybe part of the Dark Knight, is where he's like, it's up to fate, it's up to chance, and let that happen. So
One thing, just kind of before we end, that I kind of just like want to mention that I kind of liked about Batman Begins is the whole sequence with Bruce's parents and how they're kind of portrayed, and that whole dynamic where it's interesting, and I think for me it's kind of a little refreshing, where at least you have this very wealthy person, the Wayne family, and how they are very consistently portrayed as like good people, and or at least some like they're billionaires, whatever, but they have money and they're actually trying to do something with that. Like we're in the scene where you have the flashback, like Bruce Wayne is like Bruce Wayne's parents, like, you know, he talks about how like they built public transportation to help the less fortunate, and like his dad's a doctor who actually works at a hospital and stuff like that. And I think that it's interesting where he doesn't necessarily follow in that example of like using his money in that same way. He kind of adopts the persona of the playboy billionaire, but he does find his own way, and he has that certain type of background to draw upon, similar to how like Superman comes from almost completely opposite backgrounds, where he's a farm boy in Kansas, and his parents are also installed within him a certain sense of justice and responsibility and compassion, and how both of those lead them to like to adopt a certain persona, but the circumstances for their the origins of their character is so much different, you know, because like Bruce Wayne's parents are murdered right in front of him, which is obviously very traumatic. So just something I kind of liked about that, like, and how they portray the parents.
well, and I think a lot of people in the movie started comparing Bruce to his father. Like, your father did this, your father did that.
Oh, yeah.
Why either why aren't you doing this, or this is why it's so great. And that causes Bruce to look up to him. But also right at the beginning, he's very, very hateful towards Joe Chill. I think it's Joe Chill, who murders his parents. And that causes him to want to do something really terrible. He doesn't know where to place that rage before he becomes Batman. He wants to murder Joe Chill, and so it at least shows his love. Like he's being compared to his father, and even as before he goes to the League of Shadows, you can see that he's so much more smaller and scrawnier. And when he goes and approaches Carmine, he's laughed at, because he's like, "What are you going to do, puny boy?" So I think that's interesting to see him have to live up to the standard of his father, but also do it in a different way, because obviously he wasn't Batman. But
I got one more quote that I want us to discuss from a Christian perspective.
Sure.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. What do we think about that quote?
I think a much better quote would be from the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't know what that quote is.
You go to Liberty, you should know this.
This is true. Training champions for Christ since 1971.
That quote though is essentially taking a behaviorist point of view, which is that like whatever your internal feelings or makeup or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's your actions and your behavior that ultimately matter. And I think in a Christian point, there's a certain truth to that, in a sense, where it's that like you are like both worthless and worthy, in the sense that, like, you know, you're a worthless sinner, but at the same time, because you are loved by the omnipotent God, who is the creator and sustainer of the entire universe, that you have worth in that by your actions, i.e. Accepting salvation, you can have redemption and be brought into the presence of God. There's a certain type of truth to that, but at the same time, it's also like, you know, like it's an interesting like kind of thing to consider, like especially with the idea of like sin and trying to not do sin and like and follow the pathway of God and what the Bible teaches and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's also like, well, you're what you do defines you, but at the same time, there's also something like unique innately about you, which is like, you know, the human soul, or the essence of who you are. That's also very important to who you are and who you believe yourself to be. So I think that, though, it does have like some good truth to it, though, and especially like what you do kind of matters in some way a lot more than like kind of who you believe yourself to be in some cases.
Yeah.
You can go really deep with that.
I'd say there's some flawed philosophy where like the person underneath is the person who's deciding the actions, and the Bible verse that's talking about how we walk by faith or we live by faith and not by works, and that portion of scripture, but we should be spending our whole life so that our works are describing our faith, because actions speak so much louder than words. I would argue that him saying that the person underneath is his actions. He is Batman. He is doing this because that's who he has defined himself as. And even if he's trying to make an argument of like, oh, I'm doing this, but that's not me. That's not true. If that's kind of what the quote is referring to.
Yeah. I would say I think the Christian version of that quote would be, what we do is a reflection of who we are underneath. When...
I like that much better.
When who we are underneath, or what's in our heart, is just sin and darkness, we're going to live like most of Gotham. Living for ourselves, only having our own interests in mind, no matter who gets killed or whatever in the process. But when we have, Jesus underneath, when we have Jesus and the Holy Spirit inside of us, is when we live like Rachel or Commissioner Gordon or any of the good people of Gotham who are fighting for truth and justice, even when there's plenty of people opposing you.
Matthew 7:16 and following. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but bad trees bear bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by your fruit, you will recognize them. And yes, it's talking about false prophets. I'm not gonna pretend to just take it out of context, but it's still the truth. The fruit shows what's underneath, and I think that's what's key. And I think that's the takeaway. And I think Bruce struggles with that. Not that he has a Christian perspective. We're not forcing the Christian perspective onto these characters, but he understands, or he doesn't understand that he can't live a double life. And that's a lot of superheroes. Yeah. They say one thing and do the other in the Dark Knight. But Dark Knight. Yeah, I said the thing. But yeah, he's thinks that he has to be two different people. And yes, for the sake of the story, he has to be. But I wonder what Batman would be like if he was like Iron Man and just let everyone know who he was. I'm sure there's a comic storyline that's explored that. But yeah, that's all I got.
I mean, that happens at the end of Arkham Knight.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I forgot. I think so. Should play those. I should play.
I've actually played through all of Arkham Knight, but
okay. I've heard they're really good. So
yeah, they are really good.
I want to do it. All right. Well, we have more to talk about with future movies. I'm glad we got as far as we did today, and we managed to finish in a decent amount of time and kind of staying on track, but also, plenty of
30 minutes of it was, oh, actually, this is great timing.
Are you finishing Shrek?
Shrek and Fiona just got married, and they're walking away in the carriage.
No way! That's amazing.
Wow. Just wait till I need a hero. I wonder who that hero is. Batman. It's Batman.
Jesus!
Uh-oh, Donkey and the Dragon. That's a sight.
I thought I Need a Hero was Shrek 2.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
It's been so long. There's no audio, so I don't know. It's just playing.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And again, we haven't done a mega episode with 3 other people since predictions episode in January. So I think it's pretty fun, even though we end up talking over each other. But it's still fun. I love you guys. Hence why you were in my wedding.
Hey.
Yeah. Listener and watcher, maybe you do both. I don't know. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Share this with your friends and buy some merch. Until next week, know that you're loved. God bless.
Peace out, brethren.
Thanks for watching, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Carry on.
Carry on my
I don't know the reference, so I'll just share go with it.
There'll be peace when you are gone. Down, 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 down.